We are back here on the Chip Shot Football Podcast to get back into our normal routine of going through the game picks each and every week. Part 1 of Week 14 will be on today's show, and then tomorrow's show will conclude with Part 2. Not a lot of games to get to because I previewed the Falcons game yesterday, so I'm not going to redo that again. So we got 5 games that we're going to look at here for the games on Sunday, and there are some pretty interesting matchups, though. Saying that, and starting off with one in the AFC North, right? The Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers meeting once again, a rematch of the Thursday night football game that both of these teams obviously participated in the snow, where the Browns won that game. And to be honest, it was a pretty sweet victory, right? To not only, win a game, obviously having the season that the Browns were having, but also defeating the division leader in the Pittsburgh Steelers with that rivalry that both teams have, having them come into your house and, beating up on them pretty well, in all honesty. Must have been a great win for them. And it was, right? Myles Garrett had a great day. Jameis Winston had a big day as well, and they stuck it out, right? There was a point where I thought the Steelers were going to pull it out, kind of undeservingly, but the Browns stuck to it, and they were able to kind of pull away and have a big win there in front of their home crowd in the snow. It doesn't really get better than that in the kind of season that they were having as well. So, that was a big win. Although the Browns are just coming off of a, crazy game on Monday Night Football against the Broncos, a shootout, a game where you just saw it all, but the Browns ended on the losing end of it, while the Steelers rebounded pretty well against the Cincinnati Bengals, where they put up 44 points. Russell Wilson had a day, and the offense looked like nothing it had ever looked like in the past couple of seasons. So the Steelers are riding high, especially with the loss to the Ravens. They're in a better spot of holding on to that division title if, they handle their business going forward. But in this game, it is a rematch. There's a lot of high tension, right, with George Pickens and the cornerbacks, and George Pickens basically saying that he didn't think they were a good team. The Browns, ended up winning that game anyway, so they hold that over their heads. So that's going to be a lot more of what makes this game interesting, those extracurriculars. There's always going to be that in divisional games, but it feels like there's a lot more animosity with the Browns and the Steelers. But in terms of who's going to win, I think I found the stat today that Cleveland hasn't won a regular season game in Pittsburgh since October 5th, 2003. That's almost all of my lifetime. And this season, Cleveland is 1-5 on the road, while the Steelers are 4-1 at home. So I think there's a good opportunity for the Steelers to kind of get their revenge here. So I'm going to go with the Steelers. It's going to be close, because Jameis Winston's playing pretty well, to be honest, but I think the Steelers should have enough to kind of get the revenge here and win the game at home. Then we drop down just one row and look at the Saints and the New York Giants. The Giants are still the only team in the NFL to not win a single home game this season. It's pretty remarkable. They're 0-6 at MetLife this year, and they're on a 7-game losing streak going into this game. And it's also not great from the personnel side, because Dexter Lawrence was placed on the injured reserve with an elbow injury, most likely ending his season. So I'm not feeling great, obviously, if you can't tell already, about the Giants, because of the fact that their best player's not playing, and they're going to go up and face Alvin Kamara at home. It's not a great matchup. It's not a great look, to be quite honest. And the offense also with Drew Lock, he is going to be starting this week after Brian Daboll announced it on Wednesday. He played against the Cowboys. That was kind of a surprise, but now he gets to start again. I assume Tommy DeVito is still dealing with a forearm injury. At least that's what Daboll made it sound like. So Drew Lock gets another start here, and she didn't look awful, like he shouldn't belong out there, but also, I think the team overall is just not in a good spot, so it was going to be extremely hard for Drew Lock to just come in there and make it look like something that they've never seen before. So because of that, because of the injuries and the fact that they haven't won a single game at home, I'm going to go with the Saints. The Saints have gotten some pretty impressive wins over the Browns and over the Falcons, and last week they were in it till the end with the Los Angeles Rams. So I like what the Saints are doing. I think they have a bit more momentum to themselves. So I think the Saints win here, probably by like over a score, I would say. But moving down a little bit more to the Raiders and the Buccaneers game, the both teams kind of pirate themed, right? The Raiders and the Buccaneers, right? I can say that. But it is kind of odd that they're playing each other. I never really noticed it. But anyway, sticking to the game, I mean, I think it just comes down to the fact that the Bucks are, actually just playing for something, right? They're feeling good right now. They are not only feeling good, but they're playing good. Baker Mayfield's looking great. I mean, they had that scare last week against the Panthers, but even still, having Mike Evans back, Bucky Irving is kind of stepping into a stride right now where he's coming off of a career high. He's having a bigger role on the offensive side of the ball while also still incorporating like Rashad White and Cade Otton has been a pleasant surprise as well, the tight end for the Buccaneers. So, I mean, I think that's just what it boils down to. Two teams, but just one is in a completely different state to the other one. I mean, the Raiders are on an 8-game losing streak right now, and the last win that they had came in week 4 back in September, basically. It's been months since they were able to get a win. So, I mean, it's just unfortunate. The best thing about the Raiders now is Brock Bowers. He's phenomenal. Like that's the part of their team that they got right pretty much, or that is flawless, I would say. But yeah, I mean the Raiders almost beat the Chiefs last week, right? But I mean this time it's gonna be on the road against, again, like the Buccaneers are playing for something. They could, if they win this game and the Falcons lose against the Vikings, they would be in first place in that division. So I think it's going to bring more urgency there to the Buccaneers. I'm going to say that they win against the Las Vegas Raiders, obviously. Then the next one, the Eagles and the Panthers. The Eagles are 13-point favorites in this game, and I like what Bryce is doing. I like how this Panthers team has looked recently, but I mean it's too unfair. It's too unfair in this game. The defense for the Eagles it's too overpowered for this offense that the Panthers have, right? Bryce is playing great. I want to emphasize that again, but with Jalen Carter, bringing the pressure, Zach Bond doesn't get talked about enough. Nakobe Dean's playing great. Jordan Davis, along with Jalen Carter in the middle, are playing phenomenal. And I mean, the defense for the Panthers again has been playing better, but we're talking about an MVP candidate in Saquon, and then you have to account for Jalen Hurts, and then Devontae Smith is probably going to come back, A.J. Brown. It's just too much to deal with. Maybe they'll keep it close because the Eagles struggle in the first quarter, but then after that, I expect this game to probably be over by like the third quarter. So I'm going to go with the Eagles, obviously, to win at home. And then the last game we have on here is the Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. Trevor Lawrence placed officially on the IR yesterday, and he is going to have shoulder surgery on an AC joint injury in his left shoulder. So it is going to be Mac Jones, and unfortunately for two of these teams where I had a lot of excitement for the Tennessee Titans, admittedly, I was wrong, but I was excited about them because of the projection of Will Levis, bringing in Brian Callahan, bringing in Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd. You had DeAndre Hopkins for a little bit. So I thought this team could be maybe what like the Buccaneers are, or like kind of like at least the Bengals, something like that, but they're not even at that level. These two teams are two of the worst teams in the NFL, and I'm not saying like this game is going to be more focused on tanking, but we could see one of those classic games where we look back on it in the draft and we point to week 14 and talk about the Jaguars and the Titans and how the Jaguars winning impacted their draft pick, right? They got this player because they decided to win this game, or the Titans won this game and allowed the Jaguars to get a better player. Those kind of games, right? There's always one of those each and every year, and I think this one could be that, especially because both of these teams have 2 wins, and they are planning for the future. I don't think that's wrong or inaccurate to say at this point in the year. So, I mean, in terms of who's going to win this game, the Titans have played a bit more, a bit better, I would say. I mean, they got a big win over Houston a couple weeks ago, but they just got smacked by the Commanders. And it is weird because the Jaguars are going to be on the road, but they haven't won a single road game. But the Titans are only 1-4 at home. So, something's going to have to give, right? Someone's going to have to kind of break the trend, and I think it's going to be the Titans. I think the Titans are going to win this game. I like their defense better. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars won. But I am going to go with the Titans because I am higher on who's on their team compared to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So those are all the games that we have for part one. We're going to have the five other games remaining on Sunday on tomorrow's show. So just for the sake of time, we're going to move on with the last couple segments here. We're going to talk about, playoff implications and bring up the Detroit Lions again because they are dominating. It feels like they have the number one seed wrapped up already, but it's not the case because the Eagles are only a game behind them. So we're going to discuss with the Eagles kind of threatening the Detroit Lions, who would benefit more from having home field advantage all throughout the playoffs. We're going to answer that question in just a few seconds.